Apsheni, Dumalang, Sanbonani, Dimachero, Nihenda. So happens to be a Thursday evening. It's 5 o'clock. You know what it is. It's SA's biggest question. I am your host, Khosi Chris Martins. Opening up the segment for today, we are talking all things COVID-19, what we can expect, what we can anticipate, and how we can further protect ourselves. We know that on the news it has been said and it has come on as the Health Minister, Dr. Zweli Mkhize, has suggested that COVID-19 peak may be over as soon as next month. However, we are expecting a second peak. New data shows that daily infection rate in Gauteng, the Eastern Cape, and the Western Cape are slowly going down. However, we know that the deaths have been rising. Mkhize said that the real test now would see whether South Africans changed their behavior to slow the spread of coronavirus. And one thing we have as ammunition on this show is delegates and people that can help us unpack this and more as we go along. So helping us understand what it really means to this evening is Sipiwe Gumede from the South African Department of Health. Mr. Gumede, a very big thank you for joining us on B-BOP TV Plus this evening, diving straight into it. One thing that all South Africans would love to know is the presidency and the relevant ministries have spoken to us about COVID-19 cases in June and July, and they said that we are expecting a peak. Is this due to climate change, being it July and June being winter seasons, and does it have anything to do with climate change?
Thank you very much. Starting with the climate change, it does not affect the spread of the virus. That has been witnessed in US and other European countries. Remember when it was its peak in the US, it was summer and infections were climbing high. In relation to having a higher number of cases and more number of people who are recovering, in simple terms, it means that we've got more people who are recovering from COVID-19.
Yes.
As much as numbers are high, but over 80% of people who tested positive are recovering or have recovered. And the reasons are simple. Most people who are infected with COVID-19 only experience mild symptoms.
Yes.
And those who are hospitalized and some of them ultimately die is those who are having severe symptoms, and they are in small percentage.
All right, I hear you. And we know that there is a severe and not so severe symptoms to people that might be infected with COVID-19. Are there any other symptoms that we need to be aware of? And can you please remind us of the symptoms that we need to be cognizant of?
Obviously, bad news tend to alter our mental state, to deteriorate and experience some mental illnesses. And of course, if you are having a poor health mental state, that will actually affect the outcomes of your recovery period for any other disease, because when we are mentally distressed, that affects your immune system. Your immune system becomes less effective. For an example, if a person experiences stress, that person ends up being attacked by other infectious diseases like flu. Your mental health is very important, because once you have a suppressed mental health, you are likely to develop other diseases. So now, in an event that you receive the bad news that you have tested positive, be strong, think positive, tell yourself that it's not a death sentence. A lot of people have recovered, and you are likely to recover if you follow necessary precautionary measures and things associated with the recovery.
And finally, before letting you go this evening, can you please advise on the mental health and staying mentally strong in order to beat the virus, especially after hearing that you have tested positive for COVID-19?
You captured it very well. Symptoms range from mild to severe. Not that everybody, when you test positive, you're going to die. I might experience mild symptoms if I test positive, like most people experience mild symptoms. And symptoms after being infected, symptoms may take 2 to 14 days,
Yes.
meaning from the second day to the 14 days after exposure, symptoms may develop. And what is the reason? It depends on the health of your body, your immunity, how strong it is. And those symptoms include fever, cough, shortness of breath, muscle pain, headache, sore throat, loss of taste or smell, runny nose. Yes, those are some of the symptoms. You are not necessarily going to develop all of them. You might develop 1 or 3 or 4 of them, depending on your health.
Yes.
When you were exposed. Yes.
Total awesomeness indeed, and that was word from Uspiwe Gumete from the Department of Health, or rather the South African Department of Health, giving us insights on COVID-19, what to expect and what it really means to peak as a country. We're about to go for a very short ad break. Do not touch the dial. Welcome back. You're tuned into SA's The Biggest Question with myself, Khosi Chris Martins. Very fresh from the ad break, we get straight into our second story for this evening. We're talking corruption, we're talking finance, and we're talking the service delivery that has been lacking within South Africa. We know that Finance Minister Tito Mboweni and his Treasury appeared yesterday before the Finance Committee, right? They were summoned to explain what was happening with COVID-19 funds after allegations emerged of corruption and mismanagement of funds, implicating senior government officials and their relatives and spouses. These include presidential spokesperson Kusela Diko, as well as Gauteng Health MEC Bandile Masuku and his wife Loyiso Masuku, and Diko's husband Thandisizwe Diko. It also has been reported that the ANC Secretary General Ace Magashule's son and former Minister Nomvula Mokonyane's daughter are alleged to have benefited from contracts of supplying PPE. Joining us this evening to unpack all of that and where taxpayers' money has been going this evening is Noluthando Buthelezi, who happens to be a journalist, author, and head journalist of PCA.co.za. Miss Buthelezi, a very big thank you for joining us on SA's The Biggest Question this evening. How are you doing?
Hi, Chris Martin.
I think it's only fair to dive straight in. I want to know where my money is going as a taxpayer, and I'm sure the people at home want to know too where their money is going, as this is hard-earned money that has been going into tax, and also tax that we are still yet to pay because we have taken a loan as a country. How much was actually given to the country, and from where did this money come from?
All right, so we're looking at something like 130 billion, which is coming from the current budget reprioritization, right? And then we're looking at a 200 billion, which would be a loan guarantee scheme, which was in partnership with local banks and the Reserve Bank. We're also looking at a 6 billion from Social Security funds, as well as 15 billion from the Department of Social Development. So, and as well as, of course, the 500 billion stimulus package.
Yes. And then in terms of corruption that we've seen happening, apart from protective equipment that has been supplied through tenders, what other forms of corruption have we been having in South Africa?
Right, so we've been seeing in the last couple of weeks a whole lot of fraudulent UIF claims coming up, whereas companies have been claiming UIFs in people's names. We've seen fake companies accessing those relief packages. We've also seen fake grant beneficiaries. SASSA has also been in the spotlight in various provinces, I think the Eastern Cape as well as Mpumalanga, where we are seeing SASSA officials actually creating accounts with people's names and accessing that money. So yeah, basically there's been an investigation in the misuse of funds as well in the municipal authorities.
And if we have to sum up all this money, how much money still needs to be recovered from all these dodgy dealings?
Right, so the estimate figure, if my calculations are correct, would be around 2.2 billion, which the Special Investigating Unit is currently investigating. And all this is all worth of contracts for all these dodgy dealings, including the corruption that we're seeing. So altogether, it could amount to something like that, 2.2 billion.
That's a lot of money. Before we let you go this evening, I'd just love to find out about the graves. We know, or rather we heard on social media, be it a rumor, be it fact, that's why you are here this evening. In terms of a million graves being dug up for South Africans, how true is that, and what are we doing with those graves?
All right, so I think what people need to remember is that the city of Johannesburg did actually speak out against this to say there was no graves being dug. So what they were doing is they were actually looking at the capacity to be able to bury people from COVID-19, not necessarily to dig up new graves. So they were just testing the capacity, and the city of Johannesburg was like, okay, we're good to go, we have enough graves, and that was pretty much it. So then the misconception around the fact that there was new graves being dug then came out, but they did refute those claims to say there were no new graves being dug, so you can relax.
All right, fantastic. Ms. Buthelezi, thank you for joining us on SA's Biggest Question this evening and clarifying the issue of the graves and the corruption for us. Look, we can only leave it up to the presidency and the government to make sure that the money is retrieved and is taken to where it's supposed to go, because as taxpayers, we are more than furious. We're going to go for a short break. When we come back after the break, we talk all things the land of Zimbabwe. We'll be back after this. Welcome back once again. It is SA's Biggest Question with myself, Khosi Chris Martins. Hot topics this evening, I tell you, and we're going into another even hotter topic, if you may allow me. Look, this one has been a hashtag that has been growing and gaining momentum throughout the week on our televisions, on our social media screens, as well as on our computers. It is with sadness that we have to mention that veteran radio star Bob Mabena has died after suffering a cardiac arrest. Look, gobsmacked and saddened by the news of Bob Mabena's untimely passing, another talent loss for the country of South Africa. From the B-BOP TV Plus family, it is heartfelt condolences to the family, friends, colleagues, and fans of the Jammer, Mr. Bob Mabena. Going into week 2 of the hashtag Zimbabwean Lives Matter. I know some of us sit there not knowing the atrocious attacks on humanity that have been happening in the land of Zimbabwe, but clarifying that for us this evening, or rather joining us this evening, is Johannesburg-based Zimbabwean-born attorney and director of NMP Institute, Mr. Prince Madziva. Mr. Prince Madziva, a very big thank you for joining us on B-BOP TV Plus this evening on SA's Biggest Question. I hope you are doing well, sir. Look, it's only fair that we drive straight in. A lot of people are dying. A lot of people are suffering abuse in the land of Zimbabwe. For someone who does not know what is happening in Zimbabwe right now, can you please give us a brief synopsis?
Okay, well, what is happening is just maybe in the past week there's been arrest of all political activists and journalists which were pushing for the protest, which was meant for the 31st of July. So what is happening is police abduction, brutality from the police also, and lack of development and widespread corruption. That is where the Zimbabwean Lives Matter hashtag has emanated from.
And I mean, if I may come in, right? One would think and assume that since the abrupt removal of a former late President Mr. Robert Mugabe, it would be a better situation for Zimbabwe. Is it wrong to assume that Zimbabwe should be in a better place right now?
Yes, it is wrong in the sense that the old guard, which was under Mugabe, continued the leadership. So they removed Mugabe, but the systems never changed. The people which were getting back during the war with Mugabe, Mr. Mnangagwa himself being Mugabe's number one henchman, it didn't change much. It's just the old guard, which just replaced Mugabe. They had done the Gukura Wood atrocities, where they shot about 20,000 Ndebelés, So it's just a continuation of the whole same thing. Nothing has changed much indeed.
And in terms of talking one Africa, right, and tying it back to South Africa, do you feel that South Africa and fellow neighboring countries are doing enough to assist with the situation in Zimbabwe right now? And what more can we still do?
I think we expect more, really. The people themselves are doing good. The nature of Ubuntu in Southern Africa is really playing well. But what I would expect maybe South Africa to do, or the Southern African community, SADC community to do, is to institute, a task team which would investigate, the claimed human resource abuses. I'm telling you, they will find more than what has been reported by the people. And if also they can investigate the conditions of police leakages, whereby somebody is arrested nicely by the police, but then he leaks and he is out of the system into torture houses by the secret police and things like that. So if such task teams are instituted by SADC, I think I would really appreciate that very much.
Sir, a very big thank you for joining us on SA's The Biggest Question this evening and clarifying this for us. We will come back to you to get an unfolding matter and an update from that and more as we go along and as the weeks unravel. But just to wrap this one up, here is word from the Presidential Ministry of the Zimbabwean capital, being President Ernest Mnangagwa.
The direction we desire remains unchanged. Our goal remains clear and stable, forward ever. This is the goal of peace, unity, stability, development, progress, and prosperity. Although our progress has been slowed down, rest assured that we shall achieve our objectives. We will overcome. We will defeat the attack and stop the bleeding of our economy. We will overcome attempts at destabilization of our society by a few rogue Zimbabweans acting in league with foreign detractors.
And I believe that's how we wrap it up right here on SA's The Biggest Question, only on B-BOP TV+. From myself, Akosi Tsile, Chris Martins, it is a very great evening to you. Do make sure that you get in on the hashtags while they are still hot. Send through your questions and your comments into our WhatsApp line, and also send through your emails to hosi@bboptvplus.co.za. From myself, it is a very good evening.